Now I have to do coordination with two hands. So I found myself on the sales operations side in around 2013, and this has evolved. It really wasn't even a thing at that time. So I'm super passionate about this because as a rep, I couldn't always use the tools that I had. So what I try to do is put myself in the shoes of the people that I'm trying to help. So 20 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation. There really wasn't tech. So my first real sales job as a Yellow Pages rep, I would sit there and I'd handwrite out contracts because I knew if I set 10 appointments that week, I could close at least 5 of them so I'd get a deal a day. But that meant I'd have to sit at night in front of the TV, crack a beer, whatever, and write out 3 different versions, my A, B, and C version I was gonna sell the client. And I was gonna walk out of there with at least C because I knew if I had to go back, less chance of closing the deal. Boy, I wish we had some tech. So today, we'll talk about setting your rev tech up for success. And when I say rev tech, that's anything that influences the customer throughout the full buying journey. So you're gonna hear me talk about that today. So whether you're in sales ops, sales enablement, customer success enablement, any of the enablements or ops across the board, we really need to align organizationally and look at the full customer buying journey for the lens of everything that you do. One of those is setting up your tech. So we're going to talk about the 3 things you can count on today from this presentation is aligning customer and sales processes with your tech, mapping the connectivity, and keeping it simple. Okay, anybody in the audience, what does this number, 36%, represent? Can anybody tell me? Give it a shot. Who can tell me? Come on, give it a stab. Okay, tech stack, nope. What's 36%? Who can tell me?
Believe they actually have what they need technology-wise?
Nope, close, you're getting there. What else? Anybody else? One more? Kind of, getting there. 36%, that's the time your people are actually selling. How horrible is that? This is according to a Forbes study. There's people that touch customers, AEs, salespeople, BDRs, whatever. That's how much time they're actually spending selling. All right? That is every CRO. That's their face when they hear that number. It's scary. You're hiring these people, paying them lots of money, but they're only in front of customers 36% of the time. Why is that? 64% of their time is spent in technology. You're like, cool. All the things we do, they're spending it there. It's kind of cool, but not really, because only 17% of that is spent in the CRM. So where you want them to be, where they're doing all the things they're supposed to be doing in the CRM, whatever that is, only 17% of their time is spent there. So math majors, that leaves 47% of that 64 left. They're still in tech, but they're in non-CRM tech. They are in emails, chats, sending email communications through, sending documents back and forth, doing things because guess what? Your tech isn't set up well. They're having to do all of this stuff in other systems in different places. Nothing drives me more insane when a manager's like, send me a spreadsheet of your deals. It's like, dude, go into Salesforce and get the report that I made. So this is the problem right here. We're all behind our computers. Thank you, COVID. A lot of us are remote. And more, they're just sitting there. And some of this, you can dig down into the report. Some of it's like they're just like gossiping with their coworkers on chat or something like that, sending GIF files, whatever. But why? Why is that? Nobody does that, right? We don't have our little groups in Slack. Why? Because, as Gen Zers would say, the tech is basic. All right. I can say this because my son and my stepsons are Gen Z, and they went over the whole dictionary with my husband and I the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh. I know I used to say when I was a kid, it's bad, and my parents would be like, it's bad? No, bad means good. So anyway, basic means it's not good, okay? It's boring, it's not set up well. So think about that. It's not just about going out and buying the tech, chasing the shiny object. Somebody says, oh, I want to get Zoom info, great. Do they use it? Have you set it up well? How does that look? So, why is it not working? Because we fail to achieve simplicity. We fail to do it simply. We fail to think about our customers. We fail to think about our users. We think about our own needs. CRI says, well, we need to have more reporting. Great, we're going to go out and buy Clary. Ooh, we get that set up, and then nobody uses it. Why? It's not set up well. Nobody adopts it. So simple's not always simple. We'd like to think that it is, but it's not. So let's talk about the RevTech strategy. Some of you are probably thinking, I'm not a VP of RevOps. I don't have a say in this. Well, you do. Empower yourself. Enable yourself to go out and communicate this with your managers throughout the organization. So I'm going to give you some tools to look at. If you don't have direct responsibility of the administration of the tech, you should at least be a stakeholder in that process. And if you're not, then figure out how to make it so, to make yourself have a stake in the game. You know, you really need to. So when we talk about the strategy, there's two major parts. So first we're going to talk about the process. Don't go out and buy tech if you don't have a process. You will throw the company's money away. You may as well just throw it out the window or go take everybody out to a fancy dinner because you're never going to use it. You're going to spend 6 to 12 months in implementation because you're trying to figure out your process the whole time. So we have to start with the process first, and that starts with the customer. You have to think about your customer. From when it becomes a thought, they come in through the website, they go to your landing page, all the way through when they're coming up on the renewal and you're wanting to get referrals from them. You have to think about it as one journey. Not marketing passes it over to sales. Sales catches it, tosses it over the wall to implementation. We can't think like that. We have to think about it as one journey. There's nothing that drives me more insane than somebody saying, it's your sales process. No, it's our buying process. It's the customer's buying process. It's one process. We're all here to drive revenue, and there are different parts of the journey along the way. So we need to build the tech to support it so there's a singular experience along the way for the person that's engaging with us. So we don't create friction. We don't create handoff points that create problems. So first, talking about the buyer and their journey, then the seller. So what's your sales process? Then all the people that collaborate. Last time I checked, most deals, at least if you're in mid-market to enterprise sales, you've got lots of people that are weighing in on deals. Product, implementation, you have finance, legal, everybody wants to talk about it internally. And so do the people on the other side. So you have to start with the customer buying journey. I'm going to lead you through a few slides. There's a blanked out version of this deck. You'll get a QR code at the end of the presentation. You can download it and use it yourself for your organization. Don't get hung up on the logos I show you in these future slides, okay? I'm not campaigning for one vendor or another in any of this, but I am going to show you a map of what we did at our organization to help kind of map this out. So we can talk pros and cons because I've used a lot of the tools. I've switched for certain reasons. However, for the purpose of this, I'm not campaigning for any certain tool. What I am campaigning for is that whatever tool that you have, you set it up well and you align on what it is and use it effectively. So the bow tie. Somebody might use a funnel. For enterprise SaaS, the bow tie is a good representation of the buying journey and the sales process. It doesn't have a beginning and an end. It continues along the journey. So first, we map out a basic customer buying journey. How does that happen? Starts out with awareness, goes all the way through to growth. That's their selection process. You do it yourself. I buy tech all the time, so I have my own selection process. It's similar to this. I have my own internal people that I collaborate with when I buy tech. So that's the customer journey. So that's the first step. Have to have that first. If you don't know that, you better back up and go do that. Next, your internal sales process. Now, we obviously have a more detailed step-by-step in each one of these phases. When we're talking about laying out tech, we have the prospecting aspect where you're kind of at the beginning stages, leads, going into opportunities, closing deals, and then of course we have all of our metrics you can see on the bottom. So that's, when we're in the lead process, they're kind of in their awareness and education process. So it's important to really look at that. Note, include the full customer life cycle. Get your other stakeholders. So if you are in sales or sales enablement, work with your customer success team and their enablement and marketing and the ops teams. If it's all under RevOps, it's a little bit easier to coordinate. But either way, you need to be a champion of your internal selling, your internal sales. Get alignment on this. Now you need to think about all the people that collaborate along the way. For us, marketing's involved, our BDRs are involved, our salespeople, project managers, finance, legal, operations, customer success, lots of people. There's probably more than I have listed there, but those are kind of the key folks that are involved in collaborating on the process. Now, the next step, this starts to get a little messy. Please don't bring this to your CRO or CEO and put this on slides and be like, oh, here's all our tech. They're gonna be like, why did you put all this stuff on the screen in front of me? But for this purpose, for you guys to understand how to map this out, you need to figure out, okay, where does your tech fit along the process, along the journey? And what is the use case for each piece of tech that you have? If you don't have tech, then do this for all the tech that you want. If you just inherited a situation where there's a lot of tech and you need to evaluate what's there and what's not, put what's there, and then put your what you want to look at. So as you can see, Salesforce for us is kind of the center. And along the buying journey, we have all these different early stage tech. We have Chorus, a lot of people use that in our organization. And then we have different departments using their own tools that are really not connected to other tools. And I find out about new tools all the time. So that's a fun process every day. In fact, there's something new. Emily works with me. She's laughing over here because this is a regular occurrence. So when you take a look here, part of the challenge and what's going to create the friction for you and create time, slip deals, deal moving from one quarter to the next is all that time in email. You're going back and forth because you can't find what you need or somebody can't find what you need. And that's because you're not connected. Everything isn't connected well. It doesn't work together. So making sure that it works together, it's so much better to have like 3 tools that work well together than to have 20 tools that either nobody uses or they don't talk to each other. Every time you have to go from one system to another, that's an opportunity to create waste. So if anybody's into Lean Six Sigma, waste is bad, and that will cause you to lose deals, to lose time, to create friction with your customers and your prospects. So when I looked at this several months ago, all of these things weren't connected. And I didn't have direct responsibility because, as I mentioned before, we're looking at tools that do impact a customer's journey. So whether it's an internal collaboration or it's something that directly interfaces with customers, that's what we should be worrying about. So not just the tools that touch customers, the tools that indirectly touch customers that people are coordinating on. So at one point in time, we had 2 Monday accounts. We had 1 RoadMonk account, which does the same thing as Monday, and then we had Smartsheet. So we've been able to consolidate that down to 1 Monday account, an enterprise account. We were able to get rid of RoadMonk and move everything over, and we're still trying to solve for Smartsheet and Monday because marketing likes Monday and product or project management lives in Smartsheet and uses it with customers. So we've gone through phase 1, and now we're trying to figure out phase 2. How do we make that interact, and what are we going to integrate? And going forward, what's going to be the tool that wins? Because we need to ultimately have one tool. So a lot of these things, and when you do this and you say, okay, these aren't connected, what these all impact customers. We use PowerPoint and Word because we need to, but we're a G Suite shop. So that's interesting. So that creates some challenges there. So anyway, do this with your organization. It's really important to really see. And again, if you don't have control over it, that's okay. Bring it to the surface, bring it to your manager and empower them and ask for time to say, look, we are hurting ourselves, we are losing revenue, and if you can even bring some data behind that is great. How many meetings would we save ourselves if we actually connected this? We didn't have to talk about it, right? So why is this? Anybody's company look like this? We've got silos everywhere. Everybody's got their own budget. They have their budget for tech. And then they go out and get a tech thing and it doesn't talk to the other one, or they didn't know somebody else had it. So that's an alignment problem. And I heard that repeatedly yesterday for all different reasons. And many, many problems can point back to a lack of alignment in leadership. So getting that alignment, and as I mentioned earlier, I think yesterday when we were doing the group project, being more of an advisor to say, these are the root causes of some of the problems. And then getting together with your functional departmental leaders to say, how do we solve for this problem? How do we work together to do it? So there's nothing that says you can't run out to all these other departments and pull people together and map this out together. Doesn't matter reporting structure. Everybody in this room probably works with all the other departments. You work with product, you work with implementation, all the different departments in your company because you're training, right? And doing the enablement and teaching people about our products and our services and all those different things anyway. So you probably have those relationships. But getting alignment is critical. So now we get to the architecture part. So I'm fortunate that Emily and I have worked together for a long time. Emily is an administrator of almost every tool out there. She's also strategic in the way that she thinks about the architecture of all of our systems and how do they work together. That starts with data. So data is kind of the foundation of all of your systems. Where does the data live? Where's the single source of truth? And how is it connected? Then you also have the technology that you're selecting, whatever your technology strategy is. And then the user experience. If the user isn't having a good time using it, it's not easy, they're not going to use it. It doesn't matter what generation they are. You can tailor the training any way you want to, but if it's not intuitive, it's not easy, they're gonna turn their nose up and do what they've always done because that's just the way it is. So having this strategy when you're putting together your architecture and thinking about the connectivity is huge. So how do you do it? There's good old Charlie there from sunny in Philadelphia. I didn't make this, by the way, one of our awesome team members did. This is just a fun diagram that we did on how everything connects and what doesn't connect or what we want. So I challenge you to do this in your organization. Work with your IT department. See what else is out there that you don't know exists. I got a list from our head of IT the other day, and I found even more systems. And I'm like, how does this keep happening? So be best BFFs with that person to kind of help you understand. Also, there may be other tools throughout the company that you can leverage as well that you didn't know you had. I found a couple of those. So like, ooh, can I get access to that too? So something that's important is your data source. If you're a SaaS company, you're going to have some sort of an internal system data. So you're gonna have to figure out how do you deal with that? There's security issues. That's above my pay grade, but I know that I need to get the right people involved to do that. So does it need to go into a data warehouse? Are you integrating it directly? Where are you getting that data? What system does it go to first? For us, Salesforce is a single source of truth for our customer unique identifiers. We generate those. There's a parent-child hierarchy that we've aligned on cross-functionally. So Everything begins there. We'll generate the number when we get a new customer. So just having that alignment, just understanding where that it comes from. You may have 2, 3, 4 data sources now. If you go through a lot of mergers and acquisitions, which I've done at prior companies, that starts becoming messy. So understanding where all of those live, you've got to have that so you can figure it out. And it may need to go into some repository to sit there and be rationalized and cleansed. So just a couple points on data. Know where your customer data lives, who's responsible for it, for maintaining it, what your hierarchy looks like, where's your single source of truth, where does the data come in, where does it go out, is there a cleansing process, who does that, are you meeting security and compliance needs and concerns? That's foundational to setting up your tech. Selection process. Vendors, close your ears. You have to prioritize. First of all, take all the emotions out of it. I've heard debates over CRMs and people will seriously stab each other's eyes out. Align, take the emotions out of it. Prioritize, align on what tech do you need, for what purpose does it solve? Get rid of the nice to haves. If you're in any sort of a startup, early, mid, late stage, dump it. Get the nice to haves out of there, kick them to the curb. You don't need them. It's not the time. Maybe if you're a tenured organization crushing the numbers and you want to try something fun and fancy, that's really cool, go for it. No duplication. If you can avoid duplication, avoid it. Break down those emotional barriers. It always happens when a new leader comes in, they want to use the cool thing that they used in their prior world. So try to get in front of that. Like, meet the new leaders right when they start. Show them the tech that we have so they don't go out and buy something else. Have an implementation strategy. Again, goes back to that process. If you don't have your process, you have nothing to implement. You're wasting time and money. Get your process dialed in first. Vet at least 3 solutions. Use a rubric. I have one that we've created. It's going to be in this folder as well. You can download it. It has little calculations in it, and all that fun stuff. And only sign a 1-year deal. Don't get talked into 2 to 3 years to save yourself 10%. You'll still get the same deal, most likely, but don't do it because you may not like it. In year 1, we have 2 tools that made it to the top on a rubric list, but really didn't pan out, so we moved them, and companies will migrate you over and make it easy for you. So we did that with 2 tools last year, or this year, because we signed up in year 1, and we did a hardcore evaluation as well, but we still wanted to change it. So don't be stuck in multi-year deals. You also don't know what happens. Your org could change. You could have a riff, something like that, and then now you're sitting on extra seats. So be wary of that. But I'll give you guys a rubric. Integrations. Everybody says, oh, we integrate to Salesforce. That's great, but I don't want to just hear you have an open API. What does the integration look like? Have them show you, literally demo the integration. Show me in Salesforce or HubSpot, whatever it is, and look for those companies with partners. If you use HubSpot, there are different companies that partner really well with them, so you're better off using those. And if you're using Salesforce, there are also a lot of native apps Salesforce has. I'll give you an example. We were using Outreach, which is a phenomenal tool. Love it. However, nobody used it because it wasn't really ingrained in Salesforce. They have a Chrome extension. They just live in Salesforce. So we moved over to HVS, even though the functionality isn't as robust as Outreach, but we have much higher adoption because they can just work in it the way that they were with their account. So we listened to them. They complained because they couldn't see it at the account level, and we tried all these different things, and it just didn't work. So we tried it for a year, and we moved to HVS, and we got their dialer, and it works much better because it's all literally in one place. So all of our other integrations are like that we use. They're at the opportunity level, mapped to the object level, and it has to be easy to set up and flexible. So going back to simplicity, that's what's going to ensure adoption. So if you do all these other things, you're setting yourself up for success and getting people to where they are more likely to use the tools because you're having them go to a single place. So our goal is everything that, whether it's marketing, sales, customer success, we have a customer success tool, we want it all beginning in Salesforce so they can log in there and then they can go to wherever they need to from there. So that's the idea with adoption. To the extent you can automate it, get the end users involved early. Someone said that yesterday, having them be part of the selection group. If it's a dialer or a prospecting tool, get a BDR. We did that. We had them test it out. Do you like this? Get a champion, somebody who's like, loves it. Have the trainer, office hours. Somebody said happy hour yesterday. I was like, ooh, I think we're gonna change our office hours to happy hour, see if we can get more people to show up. Get feedback, and the worst thing you can do when you get feedback is do nothing about it. Actually do something about the feedback. If you have no intention of doing something about it, don't ask people, because they'll get pissed. And the biggest thing I can tell you, your leaders need to use it. I had a leader once at a prior org, won't name names, but this person would not use Salesforce, and it drove me up a wall. I'm like, you're wanting everybody to use it, but yet we have to send spreadsheets over on a regular basis. Our CRO, I never make reports. I don't make decks. I don't send him reports. I do none of that because he just clicks on our dashboards that Emily built, and he can find everything that he wants in real time. And the salespeople know there's a couple critical fields. There's only like 5. They better make sure are filled out. Don't have him fill out a bunch of stuff just to check a box. But he uses it. CEO uses it. He's using Chatter, tagging people. Like, it's amazing. So you have to have that buy-in, and everybody's got to do it. That's really the biggest thing. So if you set everything up, and if it's easy, they'll actually use it too, because they won't have to like try to really learn something. So this kind of brings me to the end here, but think about this full life cycle. The biggest thing, process first, simplicity, setting everything up strategically. So hopefully today you have a few takeaways here. The goal was to help you align your customer and sales processes with tech, map out the connectivity, and keep it simple. This is the QR code. By the way, I learned how to do this in Google. You can just share. There's a little sharing thing at the top of the bar. I just learned this the other day. So exciting. You can just make a QR code. There's 2 files in there. There's this deck, which is, again, blanked out, so without all the logos. So you feel free to download it, have it, use it. Take credit for it. Totally fine with me. I'm totally fine. Go to your CRO or whomever and say, hey, look what we put together. And there's the rubric as well.
All right, Sandy, we've got a couple questions for
Okay.
you. All right. The first one, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, comes from Corrine. Did I get that right? And the question is, what are your favorite tools for process mapping, documenting, and presenting your tech stack alignment?
I don't know about favorite, but we use Lucidchart because it was there before I got there, and it does the trick. I know there are other ones, like Miro is really cool. My husband runs IT, he's a CIO, and they use Miro, and I really like it, but Lucid does all the things that we need it to do. In terms of documenting, we're mostly using any G Suite tools for that. So we have all of our SOPs and process documents in our training drive with our Google Docs and things like that. So nothing fancy for that.
All right. And the other question that came in is, what happens at the 1-year mark if adoption is low or accountable stakeholders aren't bought in? how do you convince those that want to get rid of the tool that you like?
Well, first I go to the users. So why aren't they using it? So let's find out that. And if it's not a critical business need, is it just because I wanted them to do it? So really go understand what the root problem is. Why is the tool not being used? What I do, and I love doing this to collaborators who they're collaborating on the deals. We want them to go to the right places. We keep an eye on the login activity. So we'll swap a license and take something away and see how long it takes for them to notice it's gone. And then when they notice, I'm like, oh, we gave yours away. Are you going to use it now? So I would definitely track the activity early on and see who's using it. If they've just logged in for the initial training, then you've not done your job well. So you need to go back and figure out why. Is it not set up well? Sometimes it's just changing. Like, so for example, outreach, they were just not changing their behavior, but it was definitely a needed tool. And they had some different complaints about using leads. Does anybody use leads? Like leads versus contacts. And so I finally said, look, use a lead, use a contact, doesn't matter to me. We just figured let's switch the tool up, take a new approach, but I kept the budget for it. So I made sure with finance that I'm keeping the budget for the tech. So if I do need to make changes, they don't need to know about adoption. They need to know, that's all they need to know is that I need to keep that budget for the tech, and then if I need to swap it, I'll swap it.
Final question. Have you seen adoption of gamification tech, and what are some popular tools?
Oh, so I'm doing my master's degree in global training and education, and a lot of the research that I'm doing is on micro-learning and gamification. So I'm just using Kahoot right now just for some fun, but those are unfortunately the nice to haves that we're not quite implementing, but there are a lot of them out there. We can definitely talk offline. I haven't personally used a lot of them, but I think if you're at the point in your journey where you have all of this established and you're able to implement gamification, that's huge. And I think that's big with adoption. There are tools that are highly integrated into Salesforce that we looked at a couple of them. It's just not the time for us to bring on something like that, so.
We had one more slip in. I think we've got time to cover that.
Okay.
Which tools, or maybe are there any tools, that you consider extraneous? And they can't be people in the lobby.
What's that?
And it can't be anyone in the lobby.
Yeah, no, I don't, actually, I think all of those tools serve important purposes when we talk about enablement and finding. I think the key is if somebody can't find the information when and where they need it, it's probably extraneous. If they have to go searching for it to use it, it's probably not something that you need. So you have to think about those core things that you really need to drive revenue. So it goes back to driving revenue. There is something that I will mention for anybody who is, I guess it ties into enablement, but maybe more so ops. Get a commission tool earlier versus later, even if you don't think you need one, because the last thing you want to do is screw up people's commissions. And it would stress Emily and I out when we would have to send them in spreadsheets and you send the wrong one to the wrong person. You don't want to do that. So I don't know if that answered, but.
Great. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
I think
all right.
everybody.
Thanks, guys.
All right.